Hi, this is Kenesha, and this is Kenesha's Dope AuthorTube. Today I'm going to do the AuthorTube tag question and answers for you guys, so you guys can know a little bit about me and what to expect from my channel in the future. I found out about AuthorTube through the author Jenna Morisi. I know she's probably the most famous AuthorTube author right now, and she writes kind of in the same genres that I like to read. So I found out through AuthorTube through her. And then once I started watching her video, I also looked through the tag and found some other videos and decided I wanted to start my own. The genre that I mainly write in is horror, but I also like to write in urban fantasy. I'm a big fan of science fiction and fantasy overall, and I've written a lot of sci-fi as well. I generally write for adult audiences, but I do write some that could be considered YA, and I've thought about writing a children's book as well. My favorite writing tense would be past tense. I also like to write in first person, but I've been doing more third person writing. Because I'm also a screenwriter, I can write in present tense, but I feel like that's reserved for certain genres. I know a lot of YA and new adult right now is being written in the present tense to make it seem more immediate, so I have done a story like that before. I would say that I'm a plantser. I used to always be a pantser, but that would get me halfway through the story if I was lucky. And so I found that plotting somewhat, even if you only plot ahead day by day for the next day about what you're going to write, it gives you a better flow than having to come out with a story from whole cloth as a pantser. I wish that I could. I read that Stephen King totally pants everything, which is amazing because all of his stories interlock, so he must have a really great memory. I am currently, right now, I am self-published as well as being published by others as well, mainly in anthologies and short story collections. So I have been published in Fireside Quarterly. I have an essay in there, so that's nonfiction. And then I've self-published Black Girl Magic Literary Magazine since 2016. And this is one of the anthologies that I was published in, Black Magic Women, and Anne Rice actually recommended this anthology on her Facebook page, which was really, really exciting. I am currently represented by Red Sofa Literary, and my agent is Stacy. And I guess I don't really have a dream publisher at the moment, but there are two new publishing companies that I'm very excited about working with one day, and that is Megascope from Abrams Comic Arts, and they do graphic novels, and then the other one is Tor's new horror imprint. My AuthorTube will have a mix of videos where I'll answer questions from viewers, where I'll be talking craft, and also panels that I've been on. I'll capture those with the video and upload those. So right now, that's kind of what I have planned for my channel, but if anybody has any other suggestions, I'd be happy to take them. I started writing as a kid, I think like a lot of authors say, so I can't remember the first thing I wrote, but I remember the first thing that I got published was my aunt had a daycare, and I had written a book when I was 12 about this little fluffy thing that I had gotten for a Christmas present, and I created a book, and my aunt put it in her daycare, and it was read to the kids there. So that was my first published book. I don't know if that was the first story I ever wrote. My memory is really bad from things from childhood up to like college, so I'm not sure if that's the first thing I ever wrote. I really doubt it because I've always liked to write, so I'm sure I was writing stories even before that, but I think that was the first thing that I had shown someone else and they really enjoyed it. That's a hard one. The writers that I think have inspired my writing the most, especially in the beginning, were some of the great Black female writers like Alice Walker and Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler. And although they wrote in different genres, just the fact that all of their writing was infused with our culture, that really resonated with me. So they were the first, and then more contemporary writers like Tananarive Due really influenced me because she was one of the first Black female horror writers that I had ever read before, and to see a Black woman writing in horror was really inspiring. So those were my first inspirations. Unfortunately, I get to writing whenever I can find the time, but school is coming back in. I have 3 children, and I'll be able to schedule more writing time then. I think that by scheduling your writing time and really making time for your writing and making it a job, whether you have a daytime job or a nighttime job or any other job other than writing, but actually putting it in your schedule, I think it helps you to be more consistent with your writing. And even if you just sit down for an hour and you're just ruminating about what you want to write about, that's not wasted time. So right now I write whenever I can, but I plan to have a more rigorous writing schedule in the very near future. I use a blend of those. A lot of times when I'm writing down my ideas before they fully formed, I'll write them down in like a composition book, or if I don't have one, scrap paper or note cards. But when I really get to writing and get into the flow, for some reason I'm better on the computer flowing that way. I also sometimes dictate my story ideas out and then have them transcribed through a computer program onto the computer, and then once I have kind of an amorphous idea, then I go back into that and flesh it out. I think what I'm most looking forward to is being a part of the AuthorTube community. I found that the writing community as a whole is very open and welcoming, and I've made great friends at different conventions and on panels and things like that. So I think being in the AuthorTube community will just give me a broader group of writer friends, which I think is always useful, and maybe even do some AuthorTube meetups in the future.